Hey, this is Mo Lunsford at Union Grove Lumber Studios.
And this is the Shed Geek. We want to welcome you to today's episode. Okay, welcome back to another episode of the Shed Geek podcast. And still hanging on to Texas, still hanging on, getting interviews here. But it's been fun. It's been a blast. Had so much fun on this trip. 2 weeks. We've done rodeo. We've done, the silos down there. We've got to see some, Chip and Joanna. We've got to see some cool things. But my favorite part's being able to sit down with shed builders and folks in the shed industry like yourself, and someone who brings a little unique approach to the shed industry. So if you want to introduce yourself, your company, a little bit about who you are and what you do, that'll be good.
Sure. I'm Wayne Allred, owner of PMP Buildings. I have an amazing team here that does amazing work, and I'm very proud of them. PMP started back in 1989. Started on April the 2nd because I didn't want to start on April Fool's Day.
Nice. Good call.
But anyway, started in 89, and the PMP stands for Performance Metal Products because at the time I was building parts for race cars. I had just gotten out of business with a partner, and we were building fuel cells for dragsters, and I was building wheel wells and things like that. So I had some racing straps on it and things like that. But over the years, that kind of went down and other areas went up, and the PMP stuck. We still called it Performance Metal Products, even though we didn't really build any racing products anymore. But the name stuck, and we just shortened it down to PMP. So, we've had some incredible highs and lows during those years, but we've stuck it out in spite of it.
It seems like it's worked out pretty good. So beyond that, you do some commercial work in air conditioning. Is that right?
Yes. So when we started, we were doing a lot of sheet metal work. That's the main deal. I had a sheet metal shop, and we had air conditioning contractors that we would do their duct work for them. Over the years, that evolved to where I eventually got my own license, and I also have another business where we do air conditioning work, and we do mostly commercial work, assisted living, memory care, senior living type buildings, nursing homes and stuff like that. So we kind of specialize in that. We don't really just, if you called me to come work on your air conditioner, I would turn you down. Because we just don't do that kind. We just do new commercial work.
That makes good sense.
Yeah.
So all of this led you somehow to the shed world. You started this in 1989. So bring this fast forward and explain to me the gap between there and getting into the shed business, or what I would say, maybe the shed business, a portion of the shed business for sure.
Yeah, kind of, sort of. So also I have a welding degree. That's what, a lot of people go to college for some kind of degree. Well, I got a welding degree. So we did sheet metal and welding, and that led to us doing a lot of welded products. And we were building hay rings, and I had this older gentleman that kept trying to convince me, hey, if you would build a round top greenhouse, that thing would be awesome. And I just thought, man, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of, That's going to be ugly. So I built one. I used the cheapest materials possible. That thing was so ugly, it was just pitiful, But I set it out on the road, and it sold. And I thought, man, if that would sell, maybe I should spend a little more money on it, make it look a little nicer.
Yeah.
And it really would sell. So we started doing that. But during that time, it kind of evolved where I was doing a lot more air conditioning work. So I kind of put that on the back shelf, and really the timing just wasn't real good either. But over the years, the greenhouse is kind of stuck in the fact that we would just build one, set it out on the road, and when it sold, we'd build another one, set it out, and we didn't really try to sell them. But the air conditioning business took me all over the state, and I was constantly traveling. I told my wife I'd love to stay home more, and I felt like God was leading me to, won't you try the sheds again, or won't you try building some greenhouses again? So I said, I'm going to build something to go with the greenhouse, and we'll hire someone and see what happens. So I feel like the timing was right, that God brought, someone into the right spot. Jeremy knew Jeremy and his wife was friends with one of my daughters. They came over to borrow a frame or something or another for their wedding. And I talked to Jeremy and found out he had been a shed builder. But him and his dad and everybody, they built huge barns and stuff, but still he was interested. He needed a job. He was just moving into the area. So I hired Jeremy, and we started making, we made maybe 4 or 5 sheds a month, and we were making animal shelters and greenhouses, and we weren't really making storage buildings, but stuff to keep animals in because we saw a need there. And then COVID hit. And when COVID hit, I had people out working in the air conditioning business that couldn't do it anymore because they shut down the job site. And I had 7 guys that needed something to do. The government was saying, hey, we've got some PPP money if you will keep all these guys busy and on the payroll. So we just started building sheds. And I didn't have anywhere to sell the sheds, and we were just piling them up on the road. But my daughter came in from college. She's a college coach, and she came in and I said, look, I don't know anything about Facebook, but make me a page. Let's run some ads because I heard you can sell something there. I had no clue. And the next thing I know, we're going from 4 to, 10 and then 20, and then, it just keeps going up.
Yeah.
And the next thing I know, we're building chicken coops, and we're building kennels, and we're building greenhouses and sheds, and it just kind of went on from there. But I had no clue that the shed industry was this big or that you could make a living doing it.
Yeah.
I just kind of stumbled into it. And as I was telling you previously, I didn't grow up in the shed industry. So I didn't really know how people hauled them or how they built them or how they sold them. And I just kind of made it all up from scratch and figured it out for myself as I went along because I didn't have any previous history to fall back on, which, as I told you before, may have been a blessing, but also it may have set me back a little bit because I had no prior experience, and we just had to kind of figure out things as we went along. So that's kind of a brief summary of how we got to where we are now.
Well, you're definitely a creative type. And I love that about you. And what that allows you to do is find a way when there's not a way. And
True.
then careful that, that way doesn't get stolen too soon, because it will. First mover's advantage don't last too long, Wayne, in the shed industry, unfortunately. And maybe that's just the nature of business. But what you do is very unique. What you do looks different. I don't see the style of structure that you have. Now you sell some metal like carports and stuff like that. That's sort of a third party,
right?
Right. And you're sure to distinguish that between that and your work that you do here
Sure.
in-house, because you have a whole team of fabricators here that are doing things as well too. And 100% of what you do is metal, correct?
Yes.
So,
That's right.
So you're able to bring this metal in and turn it into this final product. And we're going to put some pictures out there for those of you who decide to view this on YouTube. Go check it out. Just go to Shed Geek podcast on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe while you're there if you don't mind. But we'll put some pictures out there. Walk me through some of these products, how they're made, how do you move them? It's so interesting, and we've got some pictures and videos we'll put in there for those of you that watch. But I'm just curious your explanation of this and how you came to build them the way that you do.
Well, I'll try to explain. If you're just listening on the podcast and you don't have a visual reference here, you can always go to our website and check out some of the pictures. But
go to the website. That way we can get some backlinks.
Go to pmpbuildings.com.
Yeah, there you
and
go.
go to the gallery page, and you will find tons of pictures there on the gallery page. But ours are a little unique in the fact that they have a round top on them. We have a machine that will roll the 1x1 square tubing. Everything is steel frame. It's way lighter and really more versatile than working with wood, because we can do things with the steel you can't do with wood. And we're welding everything, so there's no screws, there's no nails or screws to come loose later on. We tell customers that our stuff is termite proof. It won't warp, it won't rot, it won't split.
Yeah.
Any of those things. We've had shed haulers that have moved our stuff, and the first thing they always ask us is, how old is the building? Because they want to know if that building is over 10 years old, they're really cautious to come move it. Mm-hmm. But when they find out it's an all-welded steel structure and they look at us and say, oh, yeah, we'll move that.
Yeah.
No problem, So it's a little unique in the fact that we use all steel. Now, we still put treated lumber on the bottom to come in contact with the ground, because the steel will rot eventually. Rust and stuff, but...
Digital Shed Builder is an online shed configurator that strives to provide incredible visual quality, fantastic customer service, and an amazingly low price point, making it a perfect fit for any shed dealer looking to increase their online sales. Digital Shed Builder is simple to use, taking less than 5 minutes to integrate on your site. The Get a Quote feature streamlines your sales process. showing you exactly what your potential customers need. They offer a highly customizable experience that accurately represents your brand and unique shed offerings, working with you directly to set up everything you need in a configurator. With no extra startup cost, no lengthy contracts or commitments, and no hidden fees, Digital Shed Builder has been created with quality, simplicity, and affordability in mind.
We build all of our framework from steel, weld them up, paint them up, and then cover them. We use a 40-year max rib. I know I can buy cheaper, and I try to put quality in everything. We found that there's a spot in the market that if you'll build quality, people will pay for quality. We can build cheap, but also we have to stand behind our product. And later on, people will remember and call you out for a cheap product when they're disappointed later on. People, when they pay for quality, they'll be proud of it. And you can be proud of your product out there also. And that's also part of what we try to do as a business. I try to instill into all my people in the shop and the office and everything, we are doing quality buildings where there's a niche in the market where people will pay for quality. I mean, you can go off the chart with quality that people aren't going to pay for.
Yeah.
But if you'll provide a quality product that people can be proud of and you can be proud to sell, there's a market out there, no matter what industry you're working in.
You've come a long way from that first one you set out by the road, huh?
Yes. I hope that thing I hope it's in the dumpster somewhere because I wouldn't want anyone to see that,
Don't want my name associated anymore with that one. I just done it, guys, thinking it wouldn't sell, and then you bought a bunch of them, and I had to go and improve the system, right? So,
I know this is not what you asked, but it leads me into another thought that I really try to instill into everybody here, and that is, if we build something that's not quality and a customer has a problem, we are going to take care of it. People don't realize how many thousands and thousands of dollars in advertising you would have to spend to overcome one disgruntled customer, where if you had just went and taken care of them, they wouldn't have told their neighbor who told their neighbor who told their neighbor, and you wouldn't have had to spend $10,000 to overcome that one negative review that you got. So, we will go overboard to take care of our customers and make sure that we're providing quality in everything that we do here.
From an entrepreneurial standpoint, I would almost say you can echo those sentiments with employees a lot of time. Don't get me wrong, there's customers and there's employees you just can't satisfy no matter what you do. But generally speaking, it's cheaper to keep them than it is to onboard a new one. And I always like to say, man, like sometimes you just got to hear the grievance because most people want to do a good job, right? They want to come into work. They want to do a good job. Mm-hmm. And it's the same with employees as it is with customers. You just really got to listen. Just be willing to hear them out. So I love what you do. I think it's amazing. We definitely want to make sure that we show plenty of pictures of it. Walking through the construction of it, you built like an apparatus to begin with to even do your bend your metal originally before you could find a better machine. Is that right?
Yeah.
I mean, this thing looks like a torture device for those of you who see it. You're going to wonder what's going on, but it's pretty awesome. And it's very ingenuitive of you.
Well, part of my story is the fact that I like to build stuff from scratch. I like to look at something, and I grew up in the country, so way out in the country, and my dad taught me to weld at a very young age. So I could always, and my dad would encourage me, you can go out in the scrap pile and you can build anything you want to out of the scrap pile. Here's you some metal, here's you some welding rods. I may have been like 10 or 12 years old, get after it, And, nowadays you wouldn't turn kids loose with a pile of scrap metal and here's a cutting torch and and a welding machine and build what you want to. But that's kind of how I grew up. So whenever I would find a problem or something that needed to be done, of course, we couldn't just go to the internet. I'll just go to the internet and search up a way to do that, You got out there in the pile of metal and you just dreamed up a way to do whatever you wanted to do, and you built something, and we were the only ones in the neighborhood that our mini bike set were choppers because we cut the forks off and welded long pipes on there, so we had chopper mini bikes, But getting back to what you were asking about, I needed to roll the steel, but I didn't have a way to do it. I didn't go online and search, okay, where can I buy a rolling machine? I didn't really have the money, and I didn't know if this idea was going to work anyway. So I bought some chain out of the scrapyard. I got some shafts out of the scrapyard. I found a gear reduction motor on eBay. I bought an electric motor on Craigslist, and I put together a machine that would roll the steel. It was really crude. But, it worked for us for a few years until we got rolling and we made some money. And now we have a really nice one that has a digital readout and all that stuff. And, I think we're highfalutin now, with that little digital readout, because before you were back here just kind of eyeballing it, and you would hold up this piece of bar that we had bent for the correct angle, and you would say, that looks about right. Yeah. Go with it,
Send it. Just go with it.
Yeah.
Well, and then even beyond that, your delivery process, you found some very unique ways to deliver these. So you guys offer delivery on your product. Now, there's some products here that people can just show up and they can load on the trailer. Right. So you do hunting blinds, really cool hunting blinds. Like, you're telling the story about a guy who, builds just hunting blind windows. Yes. When we talk about entrepreneurship, neither me or you knew that was a job. It's a full-time job for somebody. He does that all the time.
I across it. I'm searching for windows for my hunting blind, and I discovered there's this guy out towards West Texas. I'm going out that way anyway, so I go out there to his place, and I go out there, and he's got 5 people in a shop building hunting blind windows all day, and I'm going, it just blew my mind. I'm thinking, I had no idea someone could make a living even by themselves building hunting blinds, windows, much less to hire someone, much less to have 5 people out in the shop. So, you just stumble across different industries that just blow your mind that, wow, people can make a living doing that.
I think people find that to be surprising when they end up in the shed industry and they start looking at all the shed hauler events and, just different things that happen. They're like, what? That's a thing? I didn't know that was a thing. Because for most people, sheds just boils down to like something that's at Home Depot or Lowe's, and that's it. That's, that's all they know. But so anyway.
So to get back to your question.
Yes.
I know I didn't fully answer your question because I got derailed for a second there. But, one of the things, I didn't grow up in the shed industry, so I don't have a background of, this is how you haul a shed. So our sheds most of our stuff here doesn't have floors in it. So it's just an open bottom. So to haul a shed the traditional way just won't work for us. So what we have to do usually is we'll jack it up on one end. We built carts that have 4 wheels on them, and we'll set it on a cart on one end. We'll pick up the other end, and then we'll just drive it up on the trailer. When we drive it up on the trailer, we leave it sitting on the wheels. We don't even take the wheels off. We just ratchet it down with the wheels on there. When we get to the customer, we'll pick it up, and we'll take it right back off the trailer and just drive it right into place wherever the customer wants it. Now, one of the things that's a little bit different that me and you were looking at on the truck out there was that the first big shed that we hauled, we sold a 10 by 16 storage building. Me and Jeremy delivered it out there, and we were using one of the big, what I call tractor jacks, the big tall ones. Well, that thing missed the hole on the way down, and it fell like it killed everybody in sight, and that thing just scared me to death. So I thought, I just can't have that happening to me or one of my employees. So I went down to Tractor Supply. I bought a trailer jack. We welded an ear on the side of it so that when I stuck that ear under the building and I turned the handle, it would pick the building up, and I didn't have to worry about falling on anyone or falling on me. Well, we did that a couple of times, and it was pretty good, but I thought, if this is good, what would be better? It would be better if I didn't have to sit there and turn that handle. So we cut the handle off, we welded a nut on it, and we got our big Makita drill out there, and we put it on that nut, and that jack would just zip right up and down just like nothing, and I'm not sitting there with my tongue hanging out, cranking on the handle,
And that works because the weight of the building isn't just incredible.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you don't have to, because it's all metal.
Our buildings are super light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got dog houses, you've got a couple different styles. You got chicken coops, you've got, different styles of those, greenhouses and sheds. So and traditional storage. You've even got traditional storage where you've put shelving in it all the way around for, those who have Christmas decorations and things like that. It just makes it simple. So you are in sheds. You're just in metal sheds.
Yes.
But a large part of your product service is really the livestock, whether it's dogs, chicken coops, horses, whatever, goats. Right. You've got a lot of different things. And you said you've sold quite a few of those, but what's really cool is you've even got an easy way to move those. Are you a dealer who sells multiple products at your shed lot? Are you tired of sifting through clunky or overcomplicated softwares to simply sell a product? If so, it's time to call Cal. Consumer Aligned Logistics is the affordable, simplified, and scalable solution for your shed, carport, or even RTO company. We are partnered with Idea Room and Shed Pro for configurators and have multiple RTO partners to choose from JMag to Heartland to Shed Geek Rentals and Scott's RTO. And if your partner isn't listed here, just ask. We are happy to add more. Give us a call at 425-359-3279 or visit calcanhelp.com. That's CALCANHELP.com.
Sure. I mean, all of our stuff, we've had to kind of figure it out. There wasn't a set way. I couldn't even search online and say, how do I move this, So we just kind of had to figure it out. And a lot of our products come from, me needing something at home. Like I need a well shed for my well shed was getting rotten. I tore it down and I thought, I'm not building another, we build everything out of metal. I'm not building another wood, well shed. So we built a little round top well shed, put a little door in it and a louver on the other side that I can open and close in the winter. And started using that. Same with the dog house. We needed a dog house at the house. We built an enclosed dog house and put a heater in the back so my dogs, stay in a heated dog house during the winter. A lot of our stuff just came out of necessity. And before I would take it home, I would sell 2 or 3 of them off the lot. And I would go, I guess other people need that too. And one thing led to another. And we just end up with quite the variety of buildings. And we have some that you can come and you bring your trailer and we'll load it on your trailer and you can take it home. And we have the others that we will load and deliver ourselves.
So how do they move these around? Say like a chicken coop, if they've got one, what instrument did you guys create for that?
Well, on the chicken coops, it's commonly, in the industry of the chicken coops, the lighter buildings usually call them a chicken tractor so that you can move it around the yard and things like that. So we put wheels on ours. And what we did is at first we put 4 wheels on there. And what we discovered is, that's fine if you want to move it in a straight line back and forth, but we had customers breaking the wheels because they would try to turn the building and it would break the wheels or whatever. So we thought, how can we improve on that? So what we did is we have 2 wheels in the center where it's pretty well the center balance. You flip those wheels up and there's handles on the front. You can just grab onto the building and just pull it around and you can spin it around a circle if you want to. It'll spin a circle if you want to.
And then just crank the wheels back down.
Move it to some fresh grass. There's not a crank. It's a lever. You just move the lever over to this side. The wheel goes down. You pull the lever up to this side, and the wheel picks the building up. So it's pretty simple, really.
And for the larger ones, you will load these up, though, like we discussed earlier. You'll take them out. I don't know. You've got a delivery radius that you go to or something like that.
We deliver up to 75 miles. And then, a lot of the – I know on your big traditional buildings you're using a mule, but we're using an easy mover. We bought at the trailer shop. Give a little shout out to them. That thing has been awesome. I mean, there's no telling how many buildings we've moved with that thing, and that thing has really been awesome. It hasn't let us down yet. I mean, we have used and abused it severely, and it just keeps on going. And we haven't even had to buy a single part for the machine since we've had it.
That's awesome.
And it's been a few years now.
And that sets on the back of the truck, so you built like a little ramp for it.
We built a ramp that folds up. We fold our ramp over, fold it down, just drive it right off the truck. And same thing, just drive it right back up on the truck. So we're not taking up room on our trailer. I don't want to lose any room so that we can, if we have one direction we're going and we can stack 2 or 3 buildings on there, we want to take all we can.
Now, if you build a really large storage unit, that's something that you have or would call on a shed builder at times to move. So
I've got a local guy that I call for those.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
But this thing's really took off. You were really surprised. You were telling me it. My goodness, it just you grabbed a couple of dealers. They sold a few too, and then you're just between that and your marketing efforts. It sounds like you guys have really the last couple of years has been surprising at how many customers show up for the product.
Yes, it has been. And once again, not having any background in the industry, we didn't know how to advertise. We have learned that on the fly. We're real aggressive on learning things. Rebecca does an amazing job here selling buildings, but I'm always encouraging Rebecca, you can spend part of your time at work spent researching and watching training videos. That's all very productive use of your time, and I encourage you to do those things. But I'm also a big fan of, putting something out every single day. You just can't put your stuff out by the road and just sit here in the shop and say, well, they'll come find it. They won't. You've got to get in front of them. So I'm a big proponent of you're always putting something out there every single day of the week. Sometimes it's paid, sometimes it's not. And we have a mix of both, and we have a budget, and we try to, hit more than one spot. We'll put some on Craigslist. We'll put some on Facebook. We'll put some on Google. And then we're experimenting with other things also. And of course, we're going to be hopefully visiting with you about doing some consulting also.
Yeah, we'd love to talk. We appreciate any opportunity we get to sit with folks, and we're big proponents of education. And I just think that a more educated person makes a better decision. We've got friends all across the industry that we work with and do business with, and we've got friends that we don't do business with. And you know what? It's still, I guess you hold your secret sauce close, but outside of that, you know what I mean? It's just conversation, and it works out really good. So, yeah, definitely love to talk with you more. I love your products. I love what you do. I don't see anyone else doing this, and I'm just, I told my son, I said, my goodness, they're in Longview, Texas. I said, I wish it wasn't so far away because I would just drag a trailer load of these things up, and I guarantee you we'd sell them. And I think others would too. So I don't know. Watch out, Wayne, because you might get some phone calls from some local people or people within a few hundred miles. And if they do, say, hey, we at least want to know more about these products and see them. I don't know. Are you open to that?
Yeah, we've had requests from actually all over the country.
Okay.
Is it okay if I tell you about that?
Oh, go for it. Tell you, the mic is yours.
So recently we build the chicken coops, and we found pretty good success with those. What I call good success. And but we're buying a nest box from a company called Best Nest Box. Now I'll give a little shout out to them. They build an awesome product, but they said, hey, if you will do a video showing our nest box, we will, and you win the deal for the month, we'll give you, a % off or some Best Nest Boxes, and we'll put your video up. So that happened, and we didn't know it. They put our video up, and we won a coupon or something to win some buy some more Best Nest Boxes, but we didn't know they put their video up. And then we start getting calls from all over the country wanting to know, well, can you ship one over here? Can you ship one here? And we're like, well, no, it's an all welded, chicken coop. We can't just ship an all welded chicken coop across the country. It would cost as much to ship it as it would for the coop itself, so that's kind of counterproductive. But what's happening? Why are we getting all these calls? And then I discovered that Best Nest Box had put our video on their Instagram account, and it's like currently up at 900 and something thousand views. So the people all over the country were seeing it, and we were getting these calls. And so, yeah, we've generated a lot of interest, and we really haven't figured out how to what to do with that. It's definitely interesting, but just being interesting and not being able to make money off of it is another thing.
Right.
So we're trying to figure out how do we capitalize on that? What do we do with that?
Yeah, it's amazing how, I always say video production's highly underutilized in the sales process anymore. I do a mixture of Zoom calls and I do a mixture of in-person interviews. I always like the in-person interviews. It can't always work. It's just not always possible to make that happen, but they're more personal. Sitting here with you, right. Seeing the race car, having that conversation, seeing your shop, having those conversations. That's primary communication, but your secondary communication is being able to visually see something and understand something. It's the same reason why Amazon tries to give you an accurate description of what you're buying so you understand it. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing that is the Achilles heel in our e-commerce portion for sheds, why it makes it hard for somebody to pull the trigger on just buying a shed completely without talking to somebody. Right. But it's usually where their journey begins. Like they start searching and the next thing you know, they call, text, email, whatever it is. Hey, Deanna, I need to write a new ad for Shed Hub. Give me some ideas.
Why don't you do something catchy like the insurance commercials do all the time, where they just repeat the same thing over and over?
Like a little jingle or something like that.
Yeah,
But wouldn't that be embarrassing?
that is kind of the point.
What type of music?
Try rap.
Shed Hub helps you sell shed.
Maybe country.
Shed Hub helps you sell sheds.
Rock and roll?
Shed Hub helps you sell sheds.
Maybe just go back to your normal writing style.
Shed Geek and Shed Hub are now collaborating to make for a better customer experience. I want to save you some money. Shed Hub is focused on signing up the next 500 customers. We're calling it the Next 500 Plan.
Real creative.
You think it'll help if I sing again?
I'd rather you not.
Well, that makes two of us.
So what's the next 500 plan?
The Next 500 plan is simple. This will include 100 listings per month, per location, along with the Brand Builder website. And the plan will last for 1 full year.
But how do they save money?
It only costs $39 a month. There's never been a better time to sign up. Just go to geek.shedhub.com, click subscribe, enter your name, email, and payment information, and you will be contacted by a Shed Hub employee to get you onboarded for just $39 per month. Shed Hub helps you sell shit. How have you found, you were talking about Rebecca, and she's just top notch. She's already, you guys got a website, and you're what I mean? Like you're making changes on that regularly. Sure. You're learning about the marketing side of things, whether it's boosting post and understanding the difference between that and like a Facebook ads manager and saying, wait a minute, I thought I was running ads or, whatever, and learning that they're sponsored ads. And then of course there's boosting posts and doing things on Marketplace. So the rabbit hole gets deeper, doesn't it?
It does.
You just keep going down that trail farther and farther. How's that experience been? You mentioned George, our buddy George, and how that's went well. You give him a shout out if you want, or I will. But how's that experience went so far?
Yeah, hit that last thing you said. When he's saying George, we did contact George at Real Work Labs when you had interviewed him on there, and that has helped us a lot. It's got our Google reviews way up, and it's helped us learn how to get those Google reviews and make it easy for the customer to get a Google review. So give a shout out to Real Work Labs. And
top notch. George is awesome.
Yeah, and it looks great on your website when people can sit there and look at your website and they can click on those pictures, and a picture pops up and it shows you what town it is and what the product was, and if they left a Google review and what your neighbor said about the building. So I like that also.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
But going back to what you were talking about the advertising and things like that, me and you are probably a little more old school, that if we're going to buy something as major as this, we're going to go touch it. We're going to feel it. We're going to look at it. We may even get our tape measure out and stuff like that. But it just amazes me that people will look at our website or our Facebook page and they will call us. They will buy the shed. They've never seen the shed in person. All they've done is looked at the pictures and they say, yep, that's just what I need. And you deliver it out there. And when you deliver it, that's the first time they've seen it. And that just blows my mind. I just can't.
It's a different world, isn't it?
Yes. I can't get a handle on that. But then again, like you said, Amazon has trained people that you look online, you look at their reviews, what other people said, because you can trust that more than what the manufacturer says.
Right.
The manufacturer says, oh, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread, But they say, well, what did your review say about it, So I've learned those are really important. And if you get those things right and you put out a good product, you advertise it well, show some good pictures of it, people will buy it and they've never even laid hands on it. And that blows my mind. Because I am so old school. I want to go touch that thing. I want to shake it and, and say, is this really built good and stuff like that. So.
We're in between we're in this weird time in history where, especially post COVID, where you had to do so much online, even for those who kind of struggled through technology, it's become a real part of our life. Mm-hmm. Right. So
like it or not.
Yeah. Like it or not. It's one of those things where the rest of the world does it, whether we do it in the shed industry or not. So, that's where we've seen like the explosion of technology over the last 5 years really hit the shed industry with configurators and just different programs and things. It's, I don't even necessarily like it, Wayne. I'm not, you know what I mean? Like you said, we're old school.
Yeah.
I didn't grow up, in on a computer or really in that space, that tech space. My son does a much better job than I do of understanding it and adapting to it. But for us, we're in a weird part of history for guys like me and you, where we're like, well, I'll thumb through it, but I'll probably have to mess it up a couple of different times,
Right.
Because it just doesn't come to me as simple. And you're understanding someone else's creation, so the user friendliness of it, the interface of the different things, and those are conversations that we like to have whenever you start getting into like website building and things like that. You want people to have you can just go get a website, nothing wrong with that, but you kind of want to flow in a process so that people understand it well and it's user friendly. They don't get mad.
And when you get a website, you want to make your website easy to navigate.
Right.
Ours is pretty basic, which I like. And we're also a little bit different in that we're super transparent on what we build and what it costs. If you go to our website, you click on the picture, it takes you to that product, and you know immediately this is how much it's going to cost me. There's, I know some would argue, well, if you would have them call you, you could sell them, and things like. I don't like to be sold that way. I don't like to spend 30 minutes with someone to know that, oh, well, I can't really afford that anyway.
Yeah.
And I just spent 30 minutes with you. If you would have told me the price to start with, we could have had a lot shorter conversation, and you could have been on to selling to someone else,
That's a good point.
But that's how I feel. And I know I'm a little bit odd in that way, but, I like just being transparent, put it out there. There's no secrets. This is what we sell for, and I feel like customers appreciate that openness and honesty.
So what is your philosophy? Most people will go to your website or come here and talk to Rebecca. What's your philosophy for whenever somebody buys a PMP structure?
Well,
what approach do you take whenever they come in? What are the things you want them to know about PMP Buildings if they're a customer of yours?
Typically, we're going to ask and see, kind of what their needs are, because sometimes people will come in and they think they want something, but then when they tell you what their needs are, you'll go, well, okay, that would work, but we have something that would be even better, and we'll try to match their needs with, what we have. And sometimes maybe we don't have just what they need, and we may have to, say, well, I'm sorry, we don't build that, but we do a lot of customizing here also. So if they can describe what they want, we build it right here on site, so it's not like it's we have to ship it off somewhere and ask, hey, can you do this? No, we know immediately whether we can do it or not, and we'll customize, and we try to meet the customer's needs, though. We're always, we want to meet that need, and we want them to be happy and proud of their product when they leave here with it, and we deliver it to them.
Yeah.
And, we just want happy, satisfied customers. And we will go overboard to do that. Rebecca and Jeremy and the guys will tell you that I want happy customers because I plan on staying. If I was in business short term, then let's sell, let's get it out the door. But if you're going to be in business for a while and you're going to be in the community and you want to be proud of what you build, you need to build a quality product. You need to treat people good, as if if you sent your son up here to buy a product, you would have known that he's treated well.
That's right.
And he left with a good product and stuff. So we try to treat people, like we want to be treated ourselves.
If you wasn't so far away from me, my daughter just bought a shed. I said, man, I would have sent her over here. These are awesome. The price is right. The quality's there for what they need. So I love it. Do you think there's more potential for parts of the shed industry to kind of go this direction towards all metal? I mean, we see what's happening with carports and all that stuff and the expansion of that. I talked to a guy even on this trip who said, my shed rep told me, you might want to get some carports or something to sell here. It just kind of helps bring in customers. And he said, man, it's turned into half our business. So of course I needed to get somebody. But do you think there's more potential, or do you think people always like a portion of them will always like the wood and the aesthetics of all the different things you can do with that? If you're willing to pay for it, there's a lot you can do with it. But what you got is, man, it's simple. You can mimic the process over and over and over. You could get them out the door quickly, and you can do it price effectively, and they last a long, long time. Is there more room for this type of building and what you do to grow in our industry?
Well, Shannon, I would say that's leveled out more in recent years. At one time, the metal was so much more expensive than wood that just made it cost prohibitive. I tried building some sheds years ago, but the lumber was just so cheap compared to the cost of my metal that I just couldn't be competitive. And now, with all the prices that went crazy in the last few years, lumber's went up, still went up some too, but it's still, I can build a competitive product with wood. And in many cases, I can build you a more cost-effective product if you're just looking for a basic shed to store some materials in and things like that. And there's some versatility in ways that I can do things with steel that you can't necessarily do with wood. So the versatility's there. Now the price is effective there. But the deal is, you don't turn that ship on a dime. And, if you've got a whole industry that's always built out of wood and that's always what they've done, you've got, a large segment of the industry that's going to stay with what is known and tried and true rather than branching off into something new. And also it's another skill set that's required. I have an applied science degree in welding. That's what I went to college for. A lot of people go to college to, get a degree in whatever, but I think my dad always told me if you'll get a trade that you can do, you can go do anything after that, but you've always got a trade that you can always fall back on.
Yeah.
And you can be good at that thing, and you can always make a living if you can do that. So I think there is room in the industry for more welded products, for more steel products, but it's going to take some people that are going to be a little creative and think outside of the box and not, think, well, I'm going to build a shed. If I'm going to build a shed, I need to go get some 2x4s, and I didn't have that background, so I didn't think that way.
You weren't skewed to think like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So my natural inclination was to always build something out of metal.
Yeah. I love that, man. You're well spoken too. Among all the things that you're doing, you're also well spoken. So I didn't ask you purposefully. I wanted to save it for the podcast, but I want to know a little bit about this story, this sign that you have hanging up in the back of your shop back here, stretches across the width of it.
Oh man.
Have I hit a nerve, a good nerve, a bad nerve?
Well, no, there's a story behind that. So
you said there was, so I said, you know what? I'm not going to ask him, and I'm going to see if he'll tell me on the podcast.
You made my heart race a little bit because that's a story I don't tell very much, and I don't tell it often because sometimes I get emotional when I tell it. So and I don't like to do it, so I try to stay away from it. But here, I'm going to give you the short version, okay?
Okay.
So in about 1996, I've been in business for about 8 years, and I thought, you know what, we're doing good, but I see where we could do better. And I proceeded to buy a huge building. I was in like a 4,000 square foot building. I bought a building that was 13,500 square feet. It was huge. Hired a lot more people. We upped our business significantly. I had this sign made that's, if you see it at my shop, it's 40 feet long, and it says, "To God be the glory, great things he has done." And it hung across the front of my shop where everybody driving by could see it. And from all outward appearances, man, we were killing it. We were doing good from outward appearances. But what happened was I unknowingly put myself on a perfection plan. My margins weren't high enough to cover what I was doing, and I grew the business so fast that we literally ran out of capital. And combined with that, some bad things happened in my business. I had one of my shop foremen died of a heart attack one morning. I had some employees that kind of went off the rails and they stole a bunch of stuff from me. So combining with, expanding the business too fast and a lot of bad things happening, I was at the end of my rope financially at the end of 1999, and I had to file bankruptcy. So literally I started over from nothing again. I lost most everything I had except my house and some basic equipment that I kept. And I started over, and then I would be out in the truck every day with all my guys, and we would go build and do stuff, and I basically started over then. But I was really, I took that sign down when we lost the building. I rolled it up, and that sign hasn't been out for, it saved my shop for probably 15 years, rolled up in a corner, and I wouldn't get it out. I was that ashamed that I had put that sign out, and then I had disappointed so many people. So it's a hard story to tell. I have it up now.
Oh, you're fine. You're good. You're good. Don't worry about it.
But I have it out now, and I'm proud of it.
That's right.
Because God can do great things, and he has done great things. But he had to teach me some lessons, and I had a very humbling time in life and time in business, and it was hard to go through. So.
Wayne, we grew up in a generation and where, you know, we were taught, you know, that it's not okay to show emotion, that it's not okay to, you know, throw some dirt on it, right? Shut up and get back out there.
Right.
If the ball hits you square in the nose, you just throw some dirt on it and you keep going. And I know, you know, my dad.
I was a country boy, and that's the way you did it.
That's right. My dad come from that generation too, and there's nothing wrong with being tough. Being tough's good. It's a good quality to have. At the same time, you know, God breaks down that toughness through the different things that he does in us. And even as a grown man, the strongest man, that's what it says, every tongue will confess, every knee will bow, because no matter how tough we are, he is sovereign. So like, I love real emotion. And I love real events. You know, if we can get excited, we just had the Super Bowl, and our pastor would say this. He said, if we can get excited and jump up and down about a football game, we can get excited about what God's done in our life. And we can get emotional about what God's done in our life. And sometimes if all you can do is cry, I even told my pastor that one time. As a matter of fact, we use this, and I know it sounds like I'm selling, you know, religion here, and I'm not selling religion. We use this as a catalyst for how we approach like marketing conversations. And I'll tell you why, is because I told my pastor one time, I said, sometimes I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. You know, all I can do is cry. And he said, that's okay. He said, the Holy Spirit can discern your tears.
Right.
And that changed my life. I was like, holy cow. Like, he can understand what I'm saying because he understands that language, that love language of, you know, because he knows what my heart's trying to say. Well, we could be on the phone with somebody sometimes and we'll be talking in marketing, and I can get this just feeling come over me, whether I'm right or wrong. And I'll just at least ask, I'll say, you know, it sounds like you don't know what to ask. And it sounds like you don't want to sound foolish in the way that you ask it. And in all of your brokenness, just take it the way you understand it and ask it. And let's see if we can decipher what you're trying to ask. So that might be, you know, Facebook related, Google related. And I tell them, look, I'm not the authority. I work with people who, you know what I mean, have that knowledge. That's what good collaborative efforts do. So, and they'll ask those questions, and I'll say, hey, that's why we all go through what we go through, is because you become whether it's a professional, but at a minimum, you have a testimony and you have a story to tell through that. And I think God's blessed you through every bit of that. And I know that you're proud to hang that sign up today.
Yeah. God can bring a level of humility in your life that you can't get any other way. And also, you don't realize while it's happening, why it's happening.
Yeah.
But later on, I have benefited from what I went through in so many more situations, whether it's been counseling my kids. I serve on the elder board of my church, and we've had situations come up there, hard situations that it didn't really shake me because I have been down to nothing.
Yeah.
You know, I've been down to where I've got I have 4 kids and I have a family to provide for, and I'm down to nothing. So I mean, you got to go get it when it's like that, you know. And God provided. So I mean, in the last 10 years, God has used that more in my life than I ever would have imagined. What was a really hard time in my life, you know, it's still hard to talk about now.
As it has served though as a catalyst for testimony for you. And what did I say last night? You know, something else the pastor used to say is don't go through it, you grow through it. Don't ask to be delivered from every little situation, because I'm teaching you something through this that you're going to use at some point. So sometimes I need you to go through that and understand that the obstacle's the way. And Wayne, sometimes I want
comfortable though.
It's not, and I wonder sometimes if I'm even still done. Sometimes I think that I'm still going to be seeing some of these large obstacles in my way in the future. And when they are, you know, what's inside of you is what'll come out. And that's what, it was Henry Bontrager that shared this in a Facebook post, and it's talking about shaking a coffee cup. And if somebody bumps into you, say my coffee spilled or whatever, said it could have been tea, it could have been whatever, but whatever's inside of you, whenever you get shaken, that's what's going to show up, in that moment. And that's why you went through that, so that you could help in that position with your church and help with your kids and things like that. And we all got to just remember that we're not being punished, you know, when we go through the obstacle is the way, and it's the direction and the way to help us in the future. I love your testimony. I love your kindness. You have such just a kind heart about you. Hello, shed sellers. Let's take a moment to discuss the shed customer and meeting their expectations. I remember growing up in the neighborhood where a certain percentage of the houses had well-manicured lawns and well-manicured homes. These were the type of individuals who felt it was important to purchase a well-constructed home or vehicle, or maybe equipment to help maintain the quality of the item. As shed manufacturers, we seek to provide a well-built quality shed. We want the customer to feel satisfied that their hard-earned money has been well spent on a product that will last. At LuxGuard, we believe adding high-quality rubber flooring to your line of sheds makes sense to the customer and adds value the customer can appreciate. With each year, sheds are becoming more complex. The customizations we are seeing are virtually endless. LuxGuard not only gives a complimentary aesthetic appearance for their shed, but also protects the floor from spills and keeps cleanup simple. Offer your customer the customer service they seek with LuxGuard. At LuxGuard, we are committed to delivering exceptional customer service and innovative products to help our customers achieve their goals. We strive to meet the evolving needs of the customers. To speak with one of our ready-to-serve customer product specialists, simply call 336-468-4311. To see our product and view an installation video, just visit our website at luxguard.com. LuxGuard, the floor that lasts a lifetime. We're going to change directions because 45 minutes happens really fast, and I told you it would. But I'm going to give you a chance. You didn't write any down, but I'm going to see if you can come up with any. Do you have any questions for me? Podcast, shed related, whatever it is, it really doesn't matter. Open transparency, open mic to ask questions. I'll see if I can come up with an answer instead of bombarding you with them the whole time.
You know, I listen to a lot of your podcasts, and I hear you ask this question often. So a couple of things I guess I would go at is how have you felt that your family dynamic has changed with you and Deanna working together? Because whenever I filed bankruptcy and had to start over, I didn't have any to hire a secretary or anything like that. Me and Ruby had to work direct with each other. And for a while there, that was a little bit of a struggle for us to learn how to work together, because when you go to work, that's completely different than when you're at home. So I'm just wondering how you're finding the relationship with your family has evolved as you've worked together as a family and doing this podcast.
It's a great question. I bet a lot of people in the industry can understand that, because there's a lot of family enterprises out there that do this. I'm lucky enough, to have married up. Me and Deanna started dating when I was 15 years old, and we saw some suffrage early on in our marriage. Even financially, I always would tell the story. We started with $600, which means that she started with $600, because I brought nothing to the table. And we lived on love for that first year and lived pretty poor. We lived in a 1972 Festival single wide trailer, and she was chasing me one time down the hall, and I jumped off the bed and went straight through the floor. We had to use some of the money to replace the floor. So we've literally grown up together, to be honest with you. And somebody said something a few years back. They said, if you'll just treat your life where you don't put them in different boxes, where you don't put work in a box, church in a box, God's over here, work's over here, family's over here. But if instead you just let them intertwine, that it changes your life. Because then all of a sudden, I don't know a lot of times when we're working and when we're not, because I'm also having fun. I'm getting to visit folks like you today and sit down and chat, and we'll walk through your shop, and it doesn't feel like work, because work might feel like, welding something or selling something or hauling something. And a lot of times I don't know, but it's changed our dynamic, family dynamic in a big way. We work well together. Love having my son whenever he can travel with us. And we've already told our daughter, cause we've been out for 2 weeks, hey, we're missing you like crazy. And we can't wait to see the grandbaby. But I think it's been good for us. We're a well-oiled machine. We work well together. They just make me a better person by being around them. So I would be at a big loss without them. We never really had to go through that, figuring each other out. We just, I don't know. It's just always been maybe a little bit a part of who we are. I almost wonder her answer. I almost want her to get on the microphone and answer that.
one of the things that me and Ruby had to adapt to was, like you were saying just a minute ago, where does work end and where does, home life begin and where's church, because it all becomes intermingled. And especially, and it especially should be with folks like me and you, that our faith permeates everything that we do. The values that we find there, the morals, the compass for our life comes from our faith, and that's what guides us. And no matter, you don't separate those things into different boxes, because God's in all those boxes. And if he's not directing you in all those boxes, then, and if I find I'm doing something on my own and I find I'm doing it in my own effort, God usually points that out to me in a way that it's not too successful, or he'll just point out in a way that I'll change directions. But
I struggled whenever it was coming time to do a podcast. Part of what I struggled with was there's a small part of my life that follows, politics. But I try not to let it overwhelm me. But there's definitely a part of my life that was very faith driven. And I was like, man, how am I going to be able to talk about sheds? And it's just almost hard to keep God out of the picture at any time. And I shouldn't want to. And I think I struggled through that, because I too have been at the end of my rope, and I'm not going to upstage your testimony here today, but I know what it's like. I know what it's like. So I've been there. And I think that once you've been there and you feel like you have no purpose and nowhere left to go, and every day's a blessing. Every day's up. I always like to tell people it doesn't matter how bad a day you can have, because I can recall a day in my life where they don't get any worse than that.
Yeah.
So for me, I would just say you have to find a way to live your life with all of those things present. Yeah, you're selling sheds or building sheds here today, but how many times has a shop guy come in and maybe they're having marital problems or financial problems or what it is, and you just offer counsel that day? Yeah, you're providing a job, you're providing work, but let's be honest, the higher calling of what you were supposed to do there today was something totally different. You recognize it. You know,
the folks I have the most direct contact with would be Rebecca, who does our sales, and Jeremy, who runs the shop here. And you don't realize, but I mean, they will tell me later on, I maybe said something, and whether it was an act of kindness or something that they picked up, or they see the way I do something, they'll tell me it had an impact. And I don't really realize that's happening in the moment when it's happening. But, you just try to be purposeful in those things. And I've tried to realize that, the people around me, they do see and hear what's going on, and they do pick up on it, whether it's good or bad. And, you got to remember, as a business owner, you have a direct influence over everything that happens under you.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
That's big.
That couldn't be said enough. I hope that permeates with some folks here today, and maybe even myself. But
so I've got another follow-up question.
Yeah, go for it.
So the other question I had is, I know a little bit of your testimony because I've heard enough of the podcast and stuff, and I know that one time that you worked with and maybe you can fill me in a little bit better on what this was, but maybe a home or a ministry that worked with alcoholics and stuff.
Right.
And I was wondering, what are you doing nowadays that you would consider more ministry work outside of your podcast? Is there anything that lights your fire and gets you excited to work with?
So Hebrews 13:3 says, "Be with those in prison as though you're in prison yourself." And 2/3 of the New Testament Bible was written from prison, right? So, Paul and Silas's story, is amazing. To be able to celebrate even in prison, and I am passionate about recidivism. I really hate the idea that America houses 25% of all the world's prisoners. And I think that we just got to figure that out, because you got to figure out if that's morality. Like 80% of those are nonviolent. 600,000 people get released from prisons all the time. And what I found is that for the most part, that's an epidemic of addiction. That if you start chasing the numbers back, it seems to be that addiction ruins so many lives, whether it's alcohol, drugs, there's so many more addictions out there as well too, but those are the common ones that we talk about. And I worked at Paducah Lifeline Ministries for a year. Loved my time there. It was one of the closest years I could ever recall that I had with the Lord. And it was an awesome time to be there and just to be able to serve. Me and Dylan's even talked about this at some point, trying to be able to find a way to tithe because I was tasked with getting a addiction recovery center started. And I don't know, can the shed industry do something related to that? Maybe I'm just, I use the old phrase, I'm waiting on God. Maybe he's waiting on me. I don't know. Maybe there's something I'm not hearing or should be doing, but I feel like it's coming eventually around the corner. At some point I'll have a clear vision on what it is and maybe how to act it out. But I just, at the heart of it, I just wanted to see dads being dads and be home and be present, moms being, moms and be able to be home and be present.
Right.
And I think I've seen where drugs has stolen enough of that away from our communities. And it affects so many other things, like not just jail and prison, but I mean, theft and like all these different things and circles in our industry. I just doesn't think we're not living up to what God wants us to be. So I don't have anything directly to answer your question, but it's always lurking in the back of my mind that there should be more. And maybe he put me in this industry to help serve a need there somehow. Yeah. I don't know, but I don't know what's coming, but I'm ready for it, I guess, at some point.
So you said something there that reminded me of something. You said we're getting towards the end here. And I feel like I've been a little serious, and I've got a funny story. If you got time for one quick funny story.
You got it.
So this mixes business and faith and stuff like that. But in what you're talking about, I had a guy that I had hired that had some problems with drugs, and he needed a ride to work. So one of the guys that gave him a ride to work, and I was working with him, and we'd hold him accountable and things like that. But one day he said, I don't have a ride home from work today, boss. I wonder if I could borrow one of the work trucks. And I said, well, I gave him a lot of cautions. You drive it right home. You don't go anywhere else. You're here on time and everything. All good. So the next day he shows up for work, and he comes in my office, and he says, boss, you're never going to believe what happened. But he said, but last night someone stole all the tools off the work truck. I said, oh, you got to be kidding me. No. Yes, they stole all the tools off the work truck. And I just looked at him and I said, man, I feel bad for whoever got those tools. And he said, well, what do you mean? I said, those weren't my tools. He said, well, whose were they? I said, those are God's tools. I said, I gave all my stuff to God, and he owns all my stuff, and I use it, but I've given all my stuff to God. So it's God's tools. So whoever stole those tools, God's going to take care of them. So I didn't say anything else about it. I just left it at that. And he goes out in the shop and he starts working, and I can see him out the window out there. And it's not a hot day, and and the sweat is just pouring down his face. And about 15 minutes later, he comes in there and he says, I think I might know where those tools are. and what had happened, he had fallen off the wagon the night before. He had pawned the tools. We went around and gathered them up. But he was scared to death because he had a grandmother that taught him, about faith and about God. And while he wasn't really active in his faith, he knew there was a God, and he knew that, God was serious about things. And it just scared him to death what God was going to potentially do to him for stealing those tools.
The beginning of wisdom is the fear of the Lord, right? It's wise to teach them young. And I love your story. I know
it didn't have anything else to do.
I love it.
That's just kind of a little funny little story that kind of ties all those things together that we're talking about.
That's what we want on the podcast. We can talk about sheds, and we can talk about the intricacies of all the shed building and all that. But when it boils down to it, it's people and it's stories like that probably resonate with people the most. Sometimes they're the phone calls I get the most that says, hey, who's that fellow you had on that told that story? I love that story. And I'm like, hey, call him up. Call him up and talk to him. Tell him you love that story, because that makes their day. And I think that's ministry at work, honestly, Wayne. A lot of times if we're just doing that, I love the story, and I love that he felt the conviction to come forward with that. And you can't tell me God doesn't have a sense of humor.
Right.
Can't tell me he doesn't have a sense of humor, because that's all you had to do. And he says, I think I found those tools.
I might know where those tools are at.
I love it. Well, hey, I appreciate you sitting down with me today. We've got more to talk about. Love to chat with you. Maybe we can grab lunch if there's time. Here. I don't know, but definitely have enjoyed today more than I expected I would. We're a fan of prayer on the podcast. Are you big on leading prayer? Or
sure, I don't mind.
If you don't mind, I'll tell you what. Let's close in prayer if that's okay.
I'm going to try to take my hat.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, go for it.
We're not in cowboy church, so I'm going to take my hat off.
That's
Lord, just thank you for Shannon and his family. Thank you for what they do and for how they travel and how they don't hide the name of Jesus. And and aren't afraid to talk about the gospel. So we so appreciate that. We pray for those that are working in the shed industry. As leaders, we have folks under our care that we have the opportunity to influence, some that are maybe struggling, like Shannon has talked about earlier, that we have the potential to be that older man maybe in their life that can lead them in the right direction and point them towards you, Lord. So pray for the strength and the boldness to do that, and pray that you bless Shannon and his family as they continue to travel, give them safe travels, and we'll praise your holy name. Amen.
Amen. I appreciate you being on today. It's
been a blast. It's been fun, and like you said, that time went by. It felt like it was 15 minutes.
And I hope you didn't feel like pressured in any way. You felt like good.
Oh no,
good.
No. It was fun. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, this is Mo Lunsford in sunny Union Grove, North Carolina, and we want to say thank you to all the guests and listeners.